Good morning, everybody, and welcome to IrisCon 2017, the annual Irish Cybercrime Conference. The event is now in its 9th successive year, which to my knowledge makes it the longest running security event in Ireland. I'll just briefly introduce myself before we start. My name is Gordon Smith. I'm a recovering technology journalist and I host the security podcast, Securing Business. It's my great pleasure and privilege to be up here to present all of the speakers to you throughout the course of the day. This is actually my 7th year to MC the event, and I was looking back over some of my previous notes from earlier introductions, and it's unbelievable how, as the years have gone on, there have been massive breaches, each one seemingly bigger in scale and volume than the last. There's been more malware than ever, it seems, causing ever greater amounts of damage and financial fallout. If we look back at this year alone, in fact, I can think of 3 companies that declared losses of $300 million each as a result of the NotPetya, a ransomware outbreak. Maersk, the shipping company, FedEx Group, and Merck Pharmaceuticals each declared those losses. So it's a safe bet. I mean, we're getting in for the $1 billion mark in terms of damage caused by malware. That's actually worth repeating, $1 billion lost to cybercrime. Not only is that an attention-grabbing number, it's also a prime opportunity to sneak a Dr. Evil slide into your presentation, so that's definitely a win. I encourage that. Just this week, the news broke that Uber suffered a breach involving personal details of 50 million customers and 7 million drivers. And if that wasn't bad enough, in the reports, it turned out that executives at the company tried to hush up the hack. They paid hackers $100,000. Doesn't it give you a lovely warm feeling that a company that's in the driving seat, pun partially intended, of connected cars has such a healthy attitude to security? Now, I don't think I need to tell a room full of security people all of the possible things that could go wrong with a moving vehicle that's constantly connected to the internet. But of course, maybe a breach of 57 million records isn't hardcore enough for you. So let's cast our minds back to September, when the news of Equifax came to prominence. Equifax quickly became shorthand for all of the many and varied ways it's possible to make an absolute mess of security and incident response into the bargain. Not only was it a massive data breach involving records of 155 million American citizens, it also involved a vulnerability that a patch had been discovered for 3 months prior to the breach. And then, of course, there were the company's cack-handed attempts to deal with the fallout of it. And in fact, it led the security blogger Brian Krebs to term the whole thing a dumpster fire. And in fact, the CEO and indeed the Chief Information Security Officer went down in flames pretty shortly after that, and they lost their jobs. I believe there's no truth to the rumour, though, that the company is considering a rebrand to Clusterfax. Still, you know, there is a positive. I'd imagine there are some management at TalkTalk that are really, really glad right now that finally somebody else has taken over the role of fall guy for everything that can go wrong with cybersecurity. We also, of course, had Yahoo kind of slightly upping the numbers of their own breach. Turns out it was only 3 billion records as well. And of course, there was the crack Wi-Fi vulnerability, and that was just in October. In fact, if we look back through 2017, we see ransomware that shut down hospitals and forced a number of businesses back into the dark ages of pen and paper. We see some of the biggest names in the technology business fall victim to phishing scams. And of course, no security conference these days is complete without the obligatory reference to GDPR. Just think, 6 months to go from this Saturday. I can feel the tension already. Now, maybe it's because I'm a glass half full type of guy, but actually I don't think there's ever been a better time for somebody who's working in security or in an IT role to go to management and make a case for investing more in security. If we think of the examples that I've given, and you're sure to hear plenty more of those right throughout the day from the presenters, you're going to have all the ammunition you could want to go to management, to go to a board. And the signs are that the audience is more receptive now to that message than ever before. Accenture released research this week, finding that organizations are spending nearly 23% more on security this year than they were last year. The Wall Street Journal, very august newspaper, carried the headline last month, and it read, on its front page, cybersecurity tops priority list for CEOs after string of high-profile hacks. We now live in a world where organizations feel comfortable disclosing when they've had an attempted breach, unless their name is Uber. This year, here in Ireland, both the ESB and Musgrave Group publicly said that attackers had tried unsuccessfully to break into their systems. Now, I don't know about you, but that feels like a change in the mood around security, and it feels like an open door waiting to be pushed rather than the resistance that a lot of security pros would have felt in the past. So with that in mind, if you're looking for fresh perspectives on security issues, we've got the event for you. As ever, we've got a diverse mix of speakers featuring returning guests and some brand new ones too, and they're covering a broad selection of topics. We're going to hear about incident response, the perils of security research, offensive countermeasures, and surviving a security event. One of the recurring themes, in fact, as I looked through the presentations, was working in the security profession. If you've seen the industry numbers, you'll know that businesses around the world are crying out for security people. And many of our speakers today are going to be bringing their personal experience and professional experience to bear in talking about this subject from a number of different points of view. Next door, we've also got our annual Capture the Flag event, and that's always hotly contested. We've got 12 teams looking to break into a network that's been set up as deliberately vulnerable, and that gives you a sense of what's possible for an attacker to do in just a very short space of time, just over the course of a day. Well worth checking out, and we'll be announcing the winners of that at the end of today. Just some quick housekeeping before I go. We're in the age of social media, so I'm not going to ask you to switch off your phones, but out of respect for the speakers, do please turn them to silent. You can follow the conference on Twitter. I'll be live tweeting it under the hashtag IRISCON, IRISCON. And we're also, for the first time ever, videoing the entire conference. I'm delighted to say that will be made available on YouTube, but in the interests of security, if you do not want to be recorded, please let Cooper, our videographer, know. And also, for that reason, for Q&A, we don't have a roving mic this year. So can I ask the speakers, when they hear a question from the floor, if they can repeat the question so that it's all captured on video and we get a real great sense of the occasion from the post-conference event. I'd also ask you very kindly to visit our sponsors. They have all stands out in the foyer, and it's thanks to their support that this event can take place and that Irish CERT can do its good work right throughout the year. I'll name them in alphabetical order: Amazon, BH Consulting, ComSec, IEDR, and Sophos. I've been asked to say that Amazon has prizes, 2 £100 sterling vouchers. If you register at the booth, you could be in with a chance to win, and we'll be announcing the winners at the end of today's event. So with that, I'm delighted to welcome the opening speaker, who will be familiar to many of you. His talk this year promises to be a thought-provoking look at the theme of trust in security. He's one of Ireland's foremost experts in cybersecurity, and over his career, he's managed and delivered security programs and projects from everything from SMEs through to large multinationals and government organizations. In 2013, Brian was appointed as a special advisor on internet security to Europol's Cybercrime Centre. Just last year, he was inducted into the InfoSecurity Hall of Fame. He's head of Irish CERT, founder of BH Consulting. Please welcome Brian Honan.